Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and go do it. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. Howard Thurman. I love this quote because as a 26-year-old guy, I think a lot about what is going to be valuable 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line. What skills would be advantageous for me to acquire that are going to be needed in the future? And I do think that's a valid question. I think that should be part of your process when choosing what you want to do for the rest of your life. But I also think that if those skills, developing those skills of going in that career path, if choosing that area doesn't make you feel alive, then there's no point at all in doing it because you won't be good at it. You're eventually going to burn out. It's better to feel alive at maybe something that isn't seen as being needed by the world than to do something where you can't wait for the workday to be over or you can't wait to stop doing it, but is maybe viewed as something more necessary. It's always better to feel alive when you're doing something. And I definitely feel that through podcasting and creating content. And there are moments when I speak to people on a podcast, especially the guest podcasts that I have on the Auxoro podcast, my other podcast that's more long form, where I feel so present and so alive and so lost in the conversation in the middle of it, where I think, wow, I'm never going to stop podcasting. This feeling, I don't know what this feeling is, but right now talking to this person, finding out the ways that they think, disagreeing on certain things, agreeing on certain things, me shifting my views in ways that are hopefully more correct, just this back and forth of unedited, raw conversation makes me feel so alive. And it's something that I never want to stop doing. And I don't think the world needs my podcast. I don't think the world ever needs another podcast. There are 800,000 podcasts, and there are so many things to choose from that in the grand scheme of things, no one's really going to notice if one podcast is there or one podcast isn't. But what we always need is if you are, just to run with the podcasting example, if you are going to start a podcast and it makes you feel alive and it gives you a purpose and you look forward to doing the dirty work of putting up the clips and researching for the conversations and doing whatever it is you do for your podcast, if that makes you feel alive and that fills you with purpose, you're going to be so much better, not only for your work, but with your interactions with other people. You're going to walk through this world as a better person when you are doing something that makes you feel alive. You're going to have better interactions with people. You're going to inspire people more. You're going to feel more comfortable disagreeing with people. You're going to just be a more beautiful person to be around. And you can tell, you can tell when you're around people that love what they do, even if they aren't quote unquote super successful in the mainstream view of making a lot of money or having the sick job title. You can tell when you run into someone that feels alive by what they do, even if it's just working in a coffee shop. And you can always tell also when someone is reaches the mainstream level of success but doesn't really feel alive, or they feel trapped, or they feel like they've been chasing the money or their version of success that maybe wasn't what filled them with purpose but was what they thought they needed to do. So you can always tell those two types of people. And something something I thought of when I was reading this quote is the Disaster movie with James Franco and Dave Franco and Seth Rogen. And the Disaster movie is about this cult classic movie called The Room, directed, written, and produced by a guy named Tommy Wiseau. And this guy Tommy is pretty anonymous. He has a lot of money, but no one knows how old he is or where he comes from. And he's played by James Franco. And Tommy meets Dave Franco. So two brothers are acting together in the movie, James and Dave. But Tommy meets Dave Franco in an acting class, and they go out to LA to pursue their dreams of becoming actors. And they just say fuck it and go out there and make a movie that no one really needed, but the process of the movie as it's depicted in the film, it's like they're doing it for no other reason than they want to, and it makes them feel alive. It's filling them with purpose, it's filling them with life, it gives them something to do. They're showing up every day. And the movie The Room did not have the effect that Tommy intended it to have on audiences, but it was still a success in its own way, because now it's a movie that hundreds of thousands of people watch per year, and it has this following. And it's like the the acting in the movie was so bad and the plot made no sense that it made it good in that way. It was like the emotional effort of the movie made it stand alone from the fact that the acting was so terrible and the plot line was so bad. And like all the stuff going on behind the scenes, I really enjoyed the Disaster movie, but it's it's a really good portrayal, I think, of the quote, which is "Don't ask what the world needs, ask what makes you come alive, and go do it." There was no need to make the movie The Room, but it was made anyway by people who felt alive and just said, "Fuck it, I'm gonna go out to LA and do this." And this is filling me with purpose and whatever. Like I'm going to make this because I want to, and once it's out in the world, it's not mine anymore. Whatever happens is out of my control. And the world needs more people like that. And to think about, along with what the world needs, to ask yourself the question of, okay, is what I'm doing make me feel more alive? So that's my challenge to you, and also to myself, is what you're doing now, even though it may be making you a lot of money, even though it may be giving you a life that you view as successful, does it make you feel alive? Does it fill you with purpose? That's not to say that every single second of it is going to be joyful and pleasant and full of this burning passion and desire. That's not realistic, but you should have moments in what you're doing that kind of serve as these portals into your purpose, where it's like, okay, like I wouldn't feel like this unless this was my purpose. There's no way for me to feel like this. I would never feel this alive if I was doing something that I wasn't meant to do. You should have moments like that in your in your daily schedule, like just going about life. You should have moments that make you feel like that. And if you don't, then you're probably not doing something that makes you come alive. Maybe you're doing something that you think the world needs, but maybe that it doesn't align with your purpose. So my challenge to you and myself is to think about, is there something you stopped doing that made you feel alive because you thought the world didn't need it? And why did you stop? Or is there something that you want to try that you think will make you feel alive, but you're not doing it because you think the world doesn't need it, or you think your friends will laugh at you, you think it's weird or fucking dumb or whatever. Um, and if you think it's gonna be fun, if you think it's something that you can lose yourself in, if you think it's something that gives you purpose, then why the fuck not do it? Take a risk and do it. And if it makes you feel alive, you're in the right place.